Shivasari Gaur Bhakti Vrindiki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sharmakund Radha Kundikini Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Ganga Mai Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Brihat Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki, Shri Mahaprabhu Ki, Shri Radha Shama Sundara Ki, Shri Radha Madhava Ki, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hadi. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Astatara Satasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Text 13, Canto 3, Chapter 28. That's on the screen? Yes? Okay. Prasanavadanam bhojam Padmagarbharune Krishnam Nilotpaladala Shyamam Shankachakre Gadadaram Prasanavadanam bhojam Padmagarbha Nurekshanam Nilotpaladala Shyamam Shankachakra Gadadaram.
Prasanavadanam bhojam
Prasanavadanam bhojam
Padmagarbharunekshanam Nilotpaladala Syamam
Nilotpaladala Shyamam Shankachakra Gadadaram. Prasanavadanam bhojam Padmagarbha Nurekshanam Nilotpaladala Shyamam Shankachakra Gadadaram. Premananda. Prasanavadanam bhojam Padmagarbha Nurekshanam Nilotpaladala Shyamam Shankachakra Gadadaram. Prasanavadanam bhojam Padmagarbha Nurekshanam Nilotpaladala Shyamam Shankachakra Gadadaram. Prasanna, cheerful. Vadana, countenance. Ambhojam, lotus-like. Padmagarbha, the interior of a lotus. Aruna, ruddy. Ikshanam, with eyes. Nila utpala, blue lotus. Dala, petals. Shamam, swarthy. Shanka, conch. Chakra, discus. Gada, club. Dharam, bearing. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead had a cheerful, lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes, like the interior of a lotus, and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands. Nice meditation. Purport. It is definitely recommended herein that one concentrate his mind upon the form of Vishnu. There are 12 different forms of Vishnu which are described in teachings of Lord Chaitanya. One cannot concentrate his mind on anything void or impersonal. The mind should be fixed on the personal form of the Lord, whose attitude is cheerful. As described in this verse, Bhagavad Gita states that meditation on the impersonal or void features is very troublesome to the meditator. Those who are attached to the impersonal or void features of meditation have to undergo a difficult process because we're not accustomed to concentrating our minds upon anything impersonal. Actually, such concentration is not even possible. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that one should concentrate his mind on the personality of Godhead. Purport, a paragraph. The color of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described here as Nilotpala Dala, meaning that it is like that of a lotus flower with petals tinted blue and white. People always ask why Krishna is blue. The color of the Lord has not been imagined by an artist. It is described in authoritative scriptures. In the Brahma Samhita also, the color of Krishna's body is compared that of a bluish cloud. The color of the Lord is not poetical imagination. There are authoritative descriptions in the Brahma Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and many of the Puranas of the Lord's body, his weapons, and all other paraphernalia. The Lord's appearance is described here as Padma Garbhanurekshanam. His eyes resemble the inside of a lotus flower, and in his forehands, it only describes 3 in the verse. In his forehands, he holds the 4 symbols: conch shell, discus, mace, and lotus. Kapila's instructions on devotional service. In Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru, these 4 things are identified as instructions to Arjuna, therefore instructions to us. And the Mana is not a preliminary to, it's a subset of bhakti. So although Manmana Bhava Madbhakta and then Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru, those other 3 are parts of bhakti. Bhakti indicates the mood, the mood of wishing to be in service unto. So that's a common exception in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, as he speaks of 4 rasas, because the neutrality is minus service. It's just neutrality. But service is in all 4 of the other rasas. It's just flavors or characteristics of that type of service. Serving, so then there's mixing of rasas in all the nice teachings of Rupa Goswami. But the fundamental to all in bhakti is rendering of service, just like the simple definition Sarva upadi vinir muktam tat paratvena nirmala rishikena rishikesha sevanam. The senses engage in the service of the master of the senses. These examples that Prabhupada gives are really easy to understand, and it's easy to just like hear them and not really meditate on what he's saying. But so, like the hand is meant to serve the body. The hand, a hand that's disconnected from the body, is a diseased condition, or it's like dysfunctional. But when the hand is connected to the body, of course there can be a disease where the hand can't do much, but the hand is meant for serving the body. The part is meant for serving the whole. So, Bhaktir Uttama, the rendering of service by the part to the whole, is bhakti. And here, the form is being presented, and that's an essential part of devotional service. Devotional service unto whom? Supposing you don't have a clear idea of unto whom. There's a notional one. And theism is often notional. God, and so some basic God, the source of everything, the absolute truth, and so forth. The absolute truth meaning that from which all other things come. That's the absolute truth. So service to that, because we're parts of that, and the part is meant to serve the whole, as the hand is meant to serve the body. We're meant to serve the Supreme. And so part of service is fixing one's mind on the object. Say it negatively. Without fixing your mind on the object, how are you going to be engaged in service? It's notional or emotional, but there's no substance. It's not substantial. And so, wavering of the mind and the intentions of life and everything. That to say the least, it's incomplete. Or saying it is stronger, it's not possible. 3 times Prabhupada is saying, meditation on the void. But there's no such thing. How do you meditate on the no such thing? There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Like as the Mayavadis say, Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. So that it's Jagat is not false. The universe, that which is manifest from the source of everything, is not false. It's just not the source of everything. And it has its connection with the source of everything. But what is it that doesn't have a connection with the source of everything? You catch the logic? What is it that is not connected to the source of everything? It doesn't exist. Because the source of everything includes everything. And there's something that's not connected to the source of everything. It doesn't exist. And how do you meditate on that which doesn't exist? Nice try. I met a young man recently whose father is a Buddhist, and his father liked the idea that he's become a devotee. Father's not trying to hammer him become a Buddhist. But if you're really a Buddhist, instead of a notional one, a real Buddhist is voidism. No such thing. You're practicing that which is no such thing. and make a theism out of it, an ism out of it, a way of life. So it's okay. You become like dry wood, so maybe that dry wood can ignite. That's nice. Control the senses and pretend that you're controlling the mind. Because controlling the mind means fixed on something, and how can you be fixed on nothing? It's okay. But it doesn't exist. It's notional, at best. That's definitely myth. So then comes a whole question, how can an incarnation of the personality of Godhead come and teach a myth? That's not nice. He's nice. So he did what he did, and it became very popular, and it's still very popular. And the best of all Vaishnavas, how can he come and teach that, or an avatar of him, or an empowered person from him, teach that the form of the Supreme Person, the form of the Absolute Truth is Maya. On the authority of, he has no form. He has no quality. He has no material form. He has no material qualities. Anyway, it's Kali Yuga. And these things are for people so they can become at least, a little bit above hedonism, a little bit above animal life, and call it religion. So the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam are teaching us, we can say, Sanatana Dharma, or the eternal occupation of a living entity in the realm of transcendence, even within this world. How to navigate your way through this world in the mood of transcendence. Not easy. It's okay. It's not easy. It's easy to be complacent and then get beat up by the material energy. That's easy. But to in an atmosphere surcharged with opposition, to go forward, like this nice little description of Kapila Deva speaking to his mother. And his mother knows, not only my husband is gone, but you're going to go too. And I'm left alone. Help. So he's giving her the help that she needs. He doesn't have to stay in order to help. But if the right teachings are there, then one can do what you're supposed to do for the platform of devotional service. And you're giving a whole range of things, that all the range of things, as knowledge of the Vedas, have a range of things, and the range of things lead to one thing. But supposing somebody's here, or supposing somebody's over there, but there's something to help them bring them to the conclusion, if they have the right teachers and the willingness to follow those qualified teachers. Like this young man that said his father is encouraging him to become Krishna devotee, and his father's a Buddhist. It's like, I'm not sure it's the same as how a transcendentalist would encourage someone to become a transcendentalist. It's just, it's nice. Instead of being a hedonist, he's going to become a Krishna devotee. What is the understanding of the Buddhist father to encourage his son to become a Hare Krishna devotee? And informally connected. His father's encouraging. That's nice. Maybe because the son becomes, and when the son becomes mature, he can help his father become shift from Buddhism to somethingness instead of nothingness. And then start to understand and fix his mind on the form, like this verse. A little, just in reading this verse, I was thinking naturally of the topic that we discussed last time I was here. The very first verse of Brahma's prayers is a fantastic darshan, meditation upon Krishna's form and paraphernalia, and it's very striking, it's very appealing, and it's different than just calling it somethingness, or what to speak of impersonal or void. It's Krishna's all attractive, and the features, even if one doesn't understand it, just hear it, and hear it, and hear it, and then it's purifying. It's elevating. It helps the mind become fixed, and then fix on the form, and then comes the rest of what's going to be discussed. The part serves the whole. The part has the mind, because the senses follow the mind. Just this morning I was listening to Prabhupada explaining this in the story of Ajamila and Ajamila's fall down. So because his mind, he was not mature, but a trained brahmana with this and that and the other thing. That part of his training that was how he was living his life because of the way he was brought up. And he hadn't seen what he saw in the forest when he was gathering paraphernalia for the yajna. And when he saw, his mind was attracted. So that where the mind goes, that's where the senses go. And he went cuckoo and became, a degraded personality, and not only in one sense, but in all aspects of his life. So where the mind goes is very important. So a very natural way of opening a discussion on devotional service is what the mind does. Manmana, bhavamad bhakto. Serve the object that the mind is meditating upon. Supposing the mind is not fixed upon the object, wait a while and see what happens with the senses. And like a Jamila, and where his senses determined where the mind went. And the behavior became totally corrupted. And it happens. It happens in devotee circles. So what's the cure or prevention? Good association and hearing topics in relation to Krishna, and doing it in a meaningful way, not just. The just is also nice, just in a religious way, because you're supposed to, so you do because you're supposed to. And that's nice, but it's more meaningful if you're not just because you're supposed to, but there's an active interaction with that sound vibration. And that's effective. It's effective on 2 platforms, minimum. It cleanses the material and awakens the spiritual. And a symptom, like Sri Radhika's question yesterday, the symptom of have you heard is what happens with the senses. And what happens with the senses is not just regulation of, according to the codes of Dharma, but a waning of the affinity to engage the senses in a worldly minded way. and greater affinity, so that it's the slackening of the material absorption and increasing of the spiritual. Natural. It's a natural process. Provided it's not just done mechanically. If it's done mechanically, it's going to be very slow. It's not a 0, but it's not a 10, mechanically. So our interest is both the regulation of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, or chanting of japa, or engaging in kirtan, or serving the deity, or any of the other activities, but the qualitative, purposeful is one of the necessities for yoga practice. That there's a purpose, and there's a faith or confidence in that purpose. And one does, in conjunction with that confidence or faith in the purpose. And then progress will happen. And then that progress, once again, the slackening of the material affinity and the increasing of the spiritual affinity. Or, symptoms of renunciation, or symptoms of detachment from even, the external regulations of, at very elevated stages of bhakti, one may, by so much absorption in devotion to Krishna, not pay attention to some detail of a regulation. It's a description of the elevated stages of bhakti. The statement is made that one, in that elevated stage of bhakti, one can run with their eyes closed and not fall. In the explanation of our acharyas, what does that mean? It means that person who is so absorbed in spontaneous devotion, they may not observe a certain regulation or restriction. And there's no fault. There's no fall down. No, to imitate that for a get-go is a fall down. And it's not, excuse, or, a good, see what it says in the Bhagavatam, so I'm on this elevated platform. Shrutakirti, one of his Prabhupada said stories was he was with Prabhupada in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada was chanting japa at his desk with his beads. And he finished a round, held his beads up in the air for him to see, moved his counter beads, so I completed my chanting, now I can do whatever the hell I want. Meaning, because you follow some regulation, that's not sufficient. You can then deviate, and it's okay because you've done your bhakti, and Krishna's your janitor, is going to clean up your mess. Not like that. So beyond the stricture, including the stricture of the regulation, but beyond the stricture is when the purpose of the stricture, the purpose of the regulation, is that attraction arises. Now, it's a very nice chapter. Kapila Dev's instruction on devotional service. Very nice chapter. And the next chapter is also a very nice chapter. But it's the starting point is what the mind does. And then giving the right sound vibration for the mind to become fixed. In the right mood. fix the mind on the right, within the right mood, hearing the right sound. It's a good combination. Okay, let's see if there's some comments. You're on. I heard you.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Yeah, it is just a comment.
He's going to adjust. You speak. He's going to adjust everything.
Yeah. Just this Monday, we had
Yes,
His
I
Grace
know. I was going to ask you privately, but go ahead.
Narsingha Kauja Prabhu and Murali Manohar Prabhu visit us as they promised when they came to train us. It was just informal. He just walked in and very casually he started his, it was an Ishtagoshti, and so he was very casually he started, but the topic was just this, inward focused practice of the worship of the deity. That was how he began the whole thing. And it was so to the point that anything and everything, the entire worship process of the deity, it just sunk in so deeply that without that, it's not the external, it is not the externals, it is the inward focused worship of the deity that which matters the most. And he put it in such a simple, nice way, very informally. And today everything that you spoke also is pointing towards that. I just thought I will share with you because it was a very, very nice experience having Narsingha Kauja Prabhu and Murali Manohar Prabhu here. And that guidance that is coming to us who are engaged in deity worship I felt it was most valuable. And if we are able to take it with all seriousness, then, the deities, our worshipable lordships will be so pleased, and everything that we do in service to Guru and Krishna will be so perfect. I just thought that any amount of other discussions wouldn't come anywhere near this one particular point. Just wanted to thank you also for today's class. It was exactly on that same.
So this is a reflection. That's all. Okay. Because just a comment on your reflection. Because of what I've been doing the past 2 weeks, and more than 2 weeks, but the past 2 weeks very strongly, Srimad Bhagavatam is the same. It's not minimizing the deity, but the commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam just confirm what Padma says, that the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam is a manifestation of the body of the Supreme Lord, as the deity is the same. This canto, that canto, this limb, that limb, etc., etc. So meditation on the deity and meditation. So some persons have a greater affinity in this area or that area or another area, which is just fine and quite natural. Or combination, that's fine also. I'm just adding to your appreciation, the deity and kirtan and serving the devotees and so forth. Someone else?
Maharaj, it's very challenging for most people to accept a personal conception of God. And then past that, you mentioned how the theistic view, the majority of theists in the world don't have a specific form that they worship. It's a nebulous idea of God. And then there's such specificity here in the Bhagavatam.
Oh,
We're told that this is what God looks like. And people are resistant
Yeah.
to that.
yeah.
What is it that makes us resistant to just receiving this as the form of God?
Well, why are we here? Fundamentally, rebellion. Give me another place to go besides being in the shelter of that person who I have rebellion towards. It's the spirit of being this. So say both the rebellion and want to be the enjoyer. So that if it's not just notional. And I got to accept this. So they may not have that kind of a tone, but it's there. And you can go spin out on the topic. For example, here's a little spin out. Back to the deity. Many persons, at least from an Indian background, they like. And then they may stand for a few moments or whatever, however long before the deity with folded hands and pray, and then in the next moment it's jibber jabber. But then there's degrees of absorption. And then there's little rituals. Bring some fruits or something and place it as an offering to the so it's nice. Patram pushpam. It's the beginning. But how deep does it go? So, in response to an aversion, that's people that don't have that in their blood or in their upbringing. And then there's younger generation persons that it's their families do. And they're like, so what? So that's your question. Why the indifference or difficulty? Absorption in something else, and this cuts across my absorption in something else. Darkness and light don't go well together. It's the progress of the age of Kali. And it's very powerful, very powerful. She's got everyone's head spinning in so many different ways. Anything but. That's what Maya does. You've seen the drama, The Age of Kali? Some of you have seen it. It's a nice drama. I remember the Vaikuntha players used to love it. And Rasagya, Mother Rasagya, was Maya, and she had this cackle. Ha 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 ha! Make their heads spin, and then so. Kali is a nasty time. It's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. No, it's made easy, but it's not easy because there's so much distraction. Yeah.
Second question, Raj? Just a couple of days ago, I was reading this verse with my youngest son. Savai Samparodharmo Yato Bhakti Adokshaja. So we're discussing this word Adokshaja. That bhakti onto that entity who is beyond the senses.
Yeah.
Is done, without motivation or personal motivation, or done without material obstacles, succumbing to material obstacles. That's true happiness for the soul.
It's a nice verse, isn't it?
Yeah. What I'm asking is,
I wanted to hear what was his doubt.
This is my doubt. It's not. I was just saying that we were just discussing it.
Okay.
So that verse came to my mind as we're looking at this one, that we encourage manmana to think of to conceive of the form of the Lord.
Yeah.
And that verse says that He's beyond the senses.
It's okay. Sound. No material form. Spiritual form. And spiritual form can be conveyed through sound. No problem. Now, that's another dimension of consciousness, because the dimension of consciousness is on the material or physical plane. Then comes the impersonal idea. He has no form. He has no qualities. But he has no material form, no material. So it's the transition between the material ear and the spiritual ear, the material mind and the spiritual mind. And so the spiritual sound can carry the mind to the spiritual platform. But there's this tendency to hear or see on a material platform because of conditioning. And therefore the juice, the rasa of exchange isn't the same. So one can do it on, one may or may not on a religious platform, but then the higher platform is the primary principle is through sound. Even with deity worship, it starts with Shravanam. More?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. I've been studying 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. 17? Yes. I have faith in the three modes. So, it says people who worship demigods with wanting something in return is goodness. People who worship demons is in passion, ghosts and spirits in ignorance.
Shoo.
So there's faith that the Supreme is impersonal. Which is it in the three modes or beyond it?
You want to know, is impersonal within the three modes or beyond it? That's your question? Well, there's varieties of impersonalists. It's not an impersonalist, it's all one. So it's real Brahman is transcendental. It's not within the modes. And then there are ideas that they call themselves impersonal, but it's not impersonal. It's darkness. It's offensive. It's worse than mode of ignorance. So that's the poison, and that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's recommendation, to not hear and associate with those that do that, because it's worse than the mode of ignorance. It's offensive. Being engaged in activities of darkness, that's sinful, and worse than sinful is offense. So it depends. And then there's gradations and, etc. Someone else.
Hare Krishna. My question is about Shankaracharya. Whatever he preached, with a short span of time. Then at the end of his life, he at least He talked about the Bhaja Govindam, that song.
I missed the last part. That speaker is
At the end of his life,
at the end of his life.
when he thought about the Bhaja Govindam, he wrote the song about Bhaja Govindam.
Yeah, exactly what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, let's say, there are different ideas of what that means. One idea is, that was his essence. Another is, it's just another impersonalism, another Mayavadi notion. There's different takes. I've heard them both. So, now your question.
I was thinking, does Lord Buddha's teachings also have something like that at the end of this?
So that's one take, and then there's another take. Consistent with his life, that's what he was saying, and consistent with he's the greatest of all Vaishnavas is the other. Okay.
Maharaj, in the beginning of class, you mentioned that service is in all the rasas except neutrality.
Yeah, that's one of the teachings. You've heard that before.
And I'm confused because
Whoa, really?
in the spiritual world, everything is oriented.
Everything is what?
Oriented to serving Krishna.
Okay.
Even the rocks, the water. So they're in.
So what's the position of neutrality is your question?
How come neutrality does not have service? It seems that even objects.
There's no service.
Don't the rocks and the water are also intending to serve Krishna?
Okay, but then that moves into service. Not just with your mouth hanging open. Awe and veneration. It moves into service. So, but that is a relationship. It's a relationship of neutrality. It's not a problem. I would recommend for you to get further, find references that speak of the four instead of the five, and what is written about the four, not necessarily in why have they left number 5 out, but what is it about these four? Because neutrality is neutrality. It's a relationship of neutrality. It's not a position of service. That therefore dasya is a position of service, is a starting, and it then continues through with all the other rasas because it's foundational. Neutrality is not service. Stargazing. You have something? No. Anyone else? Yes, over the back. Why don't you stand up and rather than have her run over to you. You can take it to the next person. Go ahead.
I was wondering, when the conversation about the 3 modes of material nature came.
The three modes of nature?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about them?
How in all Shastra it's always described.
Could you fix the volume? Go ahead. You talk and he'll fix.
How in Shastra it's always described as the 3 modes of material nature that control us, but we're also described to have free will to choose Krishna. So I'm wondering what that capacity of free will is when we're under the control of.
Your voice is breaking up. Can you repeat what he just said?
I understood the question. We have free will and we're controlled by the laws of nature. What is this balance? How much free will do we actually have relative to how much we're controlled by the laws of nature?
That's it? I didn't get that at all. I have to have a translator. A visual that may help is, supposing there's light, and over the light, let's say a light bulb, and then what this light bulb is painted yellow, that light bulb is painted red, that light bulb is painted blue, but the light inside is the same light inside. The light through which the light passes in the, the yellow, blue, red, and blue bulb. The light inside is the same light inside. So the difficulty is not the supposing you, one fine day you become a transcendentalist. Shuddha Sattva, perfectly realized transcendentalist. You're still going to have a body, and the body is going to have its inclinations, but you don't identify with those inclinations because the light's so bright that whatever it may be, the independence, we're dependent, we're dependent. So the position of independence is full dependence. That's independence. And otherwise it's not independence. It's conditioned by the modes. So when consciousness, the conscious entity, is directed towards the Supreme, when the spark is directed towards the fire, then its fire-likeness is fully blazing. Supposing that spark, use another metaphor besides a light bulb with different colors or tints, falls on the grass, falls on the land, falls in the water. The potential of the spark that fell in the water, let it become dry, the fiery capacity can be restored. So back to your question. Do we really, what's the sense of independence of consciousness? We're dependent, not independent. And that consciousness is by the connection. And the modes of nature cover that connection in degrees. But then there's a connection that's not covered. That's the self-realized position, or God-realized position, or Krishna-conscious position. Well, you still have a body. And then release from the body. That there's all these wonderful descriptions of living entities leaving behind their body, and Vimana descends and takes them to the spiritual world. How go? Chalo. But in the self-realized position, even there is a body, they're not conditioned by that. They're restricted. Like, say somebody gets old, their body doesn't do what it did when they were young, but their consciousness isn't impaired because their body can't do what it did when they were young. Their consciousness, when consciousness is fixed, it's beyond the temporary. When the consciousness is not fixed, it's governed by, eclipsed by the modes. Back to your question. There is a state where it's not. Even within the body. Yeah, keep going.
Primarily you're controlled by the three modes of material nature. So in those stages, what capacity do you have to elevate your consciousness.
Well,
because you're
it
still-
depends on your connections. Yoga. How connected are you? Here's a little example. Here's an electric wire, and you run 30 volts, 100 volts, 150 volts. It's the same wire. You follow? So, how strong is our connection with Guru Sadhu Shastra? That's going to determine consciousness. And how weak that is going to determine consciousness. I mean, in the beginning, back to your question, in the beginning stages, when there's strong influence of the modes of nature. Is that all right? Okay. I think we should end. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.